Welcome, patrons. It's been a while, huh? Okay, so long story short, I moved and there was this thing, but yeah, okay, so I wanted to do something kind of light and fluffy this week, Tess, to kind of get back into the swing of things. So here's a topic that's kind of been in my back pocket for a while. So have you ever wondered about all this junk you get when you start a new game of Dragon Age? Where did all this even come from? So for the most part, there actually were items given to players who participated in promotional events, and now that the event is long since over, most of these items are just given away for free now. So because I think it's an interesting history lesson, let's talk about exclusive and promotional items in the Dragon Age series. Dragon Age Origins. Before we get into the actual promotional items, DAO has this unique system to try to incentivize you and gain achievements in the game. Certain achievements, usually associated with just the DLC, will give you powerful items at the start of a new game as kind of a sort of proto-New Game Plus. I'm not going to be going over those items, but if you frequently get something in your inventory when you start a new game that isn't on this list I'm about to mention, it's likely that this is actually DLC achievement gear. Now, for Origins, the promotional gear is included with the Ultimate Edition of the game, and PC players can now download the gear from EA themselves if they have an older copy. I've heard of some places on console, like the Xbox Live Marketplace, being able to download some of these for free, but as I'm not a console player, I can't confirm that. It's more likely that if you have a console version of the game, a lot of this is going to be unavailable. Blood Dragon Armor. Originally, this armor set was included in new copies of Dragon Age Origins as a sort of incentive to not buy used copies. Yes, that used to be a thing. Every new game included a code to be used, and that code could also unlock the same armor in Mass Effect 2. The base armor is always in your inventory at the start of each new game, with the rest of the set being bought from Bodan in your party camp. The item description explains that the armor belonged to a famous Navarran dragon hunter back when dragons were close to extinction. While it was infused with the blood of dragons to help protect the wearer from the creatures, the owner died after he was murdered by just some people. Grimoire of the Frozen Wastes, Burgeon's Honor, and Final Reason. All three of these items were part of the collector's edition of the game when it was released. The Grimoire is in your inventory at the start of the game, while the other two were actually in Bodan's shop. The Grimoire is interesting because the item description talks of the Orthlands. The book is supposed to be about how barbarians in the frozen wastes far north of the Orthlands survived the icy conditions, but what makes this interesting, the Orthlands is an old name for the Anderfels. The land above the Anderfels is now said to be hot in a jungle, so either this is like a weird editing error and this is supposed to be about the icy waste that is now below Ferelden, or this is an incredible find and this is the first mention of Thetis' northern tundra. Burgeon's Honor is a helmet that has a nice little story of a Dwarven warden who went to his calling and joined Legion of Dead Company to kill a bunch of Darkspawn, and the staff Final Reason is described as being basically a discipline device for bad students in the Circle Tower, which causes pain and discomfort. I'm not sure if that's magical or they just kind of beat the shit out of them kids. The Lucky Stone. This ring was given to players who either uploaded a character made with the game into the BioWare social network or who just had an account there. The BSN has been gone for a long time now, however, so most people didn't even know that was a thing. The description of the item is vague, saying that it has been in the hands of many adventurers and it might have a light of its own. It's really not that exciting. Embry's Many Pockets. Originally, you had to complete Chapter 1 of the game Dragon Age Journeys, which I do have a video on if you want to know more about that. After Journeys died, you could unlock the item by linking Origins to your BioWare social network account. The item description talks about Embry of Gweren, an elven mage who volunteered to be tranquil. She was a talented enchanter, but absent-minded. The belt was worn by her to keep various magical ingredients on her at all times and eventually would just absorb some of the magical properties of the things she carried. While Embry died of lyrium poisoning, the belt remains. Now, some of you may be asking if Embry's is in Journeys. She is not. This is just one of those fun little characters that is only in this item description. Amulet of the War Mage. Similar to the last item, you had to start a game of Dragon Age Journeys to obtain this item, and again, once it died, you just needed to link your BSN account to Origins. The name Cavelus, if I'm pronouncing that right, is engraved in the back, and it's known that this amulet dates back from the height of the Devinter Imperium, and who the person is unknown. Helm of the Deep. Like the last two, this was obtained in Dragon Age Journeys, however, this was the hardest to get. You had to complete all 5 achievements in the little game. Now, it is possible to get all 5 in one playthrough, but it would have been difficult. Having played a few times, I've yet to collect the 4th achievement, which is defeat an ogre with all your party members at full health. Now, while the game was taken down, again, you can get the items from linking your Bioware social network to Origins. The helmet has a legend among the Legion of the Dead. It said that a dwarven commander of the Legion came across the helmet on a body of another legionnaire and took the lyrium-inscribed helmet as his own. He died nobly, and soon another commander found it, and then that guy died nobly, and for 3 centuries this chain continued. It's a sign of an honorable death for those who stumble upon it. Mark of Vigilance. This is one of the more fun items, as originally you had to go out and buy a Dragon Age Origins t-shirt from Hot Topic. From what I can find, this is the shirt you had to buy, here pictured, and you can still find it on eBay from time to time. For those of you who don't have a Hot Topic near you, Hot Topic is kind of like the edgy goth store. At least, okay. Hot Topic was the edgy goth store in around 2009 that like your mom didn't want you to go into, kind of like Spencer's, because there was like, I don't know, Satan in there or some shit like that. Now it is like almost exclusively just painted black, and there's a lot of Funko Pops. That's Hot Topic. The amulet itself is described as being something given to the best mage hunting Templars from the Divine, and are often kept with the remains of the Templar when they die, so the fact that we have this means we probably robbed it from some dead Templar. Memory Band. This one was simply obtained by those who had pre-ordered the game, no matter the retailer. In the lore, it was made by a Formari. The lyrium-infused rings were often worn by apprentices to help retain their circle lessons, with some wearing multiple rings at a time. Lion's Paw. Similar to the last item, this was given to players who pre-ordered from Amazon. The item's description is about Lady Rosamond, an outlaw living in the Kokari Wilds. She would ambush and raid her entire life with clever tactics, evading the King's Guard until she just kind of stopped raiding one day. No one really knows what happened to her, and some still hunt the wilds for her treasure stash. There really isn't much else about Lady Rosamond, but there is a shield with her name in Dragon Age 2. Feral Wolf Charm. Given to those who pre-ordered from GameStop, an American game retailer. So this charm is supposed to be popular with chastened hunters because they think that they were enchanted by sexy witches while they were naked in the hearts of the wild, but even the item casts doubt on that claim, so give this one to Zevran, I suppose. Or Liliana, maybe she'd like it. Wicked Oath. Given to those who pre-ordered from Steam, meaning this one was PC exclusive. An item with a more interesting history, Countess Luciana Eventiva lived as basically a prisoner in her husband's castle until an elven slave offered her this ring in exchange for their freedom. The Count was found stabbed next to this ring, with the Countess and the slave never being seen again. Band of Fire. Given to those who pre-ordered from the EA store. The item's description talks about forging process for the ring, describing that the fire needed to create these needed to be handled with great care, and pondering if Formari are often bald because they cinch off their hair and eyebrows really often. Dalish Promise Ring. Given to those who pre-ordered from Direct2Drive or Game, all caps, Direct2Drive is a now defunct PC game seller similar to Steam that was bought by Gamefly in 2011, and it's kind of is still around or something like that, but it has a different, I've never actually heard of this until now. Game in all caps is a common game retailer in the UK. This is honestly just a silver engagement ring enchanted by a keeper to ensure a long and healthy life for the wearer. Guildmaster's Belt. Given to those who pre-ordered from Game Crazy or Mighty Ape. Now, Game Crazy, from what I could find, was another game retailer that was regional in America and was based in Oregon, while Mighty Ape is a retailer in New Zealand. I found this belt to be one of the more interesting ones on the list, as it has a holdover from old Dragon Age lore that has pretty much never been mentioned outside of Origins. So it's supposed to have belonged to a fat guildmaster, and they describe how peasants hate guildmasters, and that's the description. But what a guildmaster is was never really described in Origins, but is mentioned in the special edition guide for the game. And from there, a guildmaster is basically the leader of a large collection of craftsmen. There is kind of some more to that. This is the gist you're going to get for this video. Pearl of the Anointed, given to those who pre-ordered from Amazon.de or Play.com. Apparently this one was only for PC and Mac and not consoles either. The amulet is said to have been taken from Emperor Draken himself during one of the battles to spread the chant of light, just ripped from his neck. Bregan's Bow. given to those who pre-ordered from GameStop.de and Game.co.uk. This one was also not for consoles. This is actually connected to the book The Calling. The Warden Commander of the Elysian Order, Bregan, gave this bow to a young recruit and then went to his calling. How that went is basically the entire book, The Calling, and is kind of interesting. I guess if you want to watch that video, that's a long set of videos on that one. The Edge. Now, this is an odd one, as from what I can tell, you just had to download this one. There was no other requirements. That sounds wrong to me, but I just couldn't find any requirements for it. This is more of a joke description. It sounds like one of those nighttime infomercials about Ferelden knives. Bulwark of the True King. Originally, this was actually part of a giveaway from Alienware and is PC and Mac exclusive. To this day, I don't actually think you can get this one on consoles. This shield is said to have belonged to Moira, the Rebel Queen. This was taken from her body at the time of her death and presented to the false Ferelden King Megran at the time. Also, the opening of the book The Stolen Throne. Dragon Age 2. Similar to Origins, Dragon Age 2 also had a bunch of weird promotional items pop up. Now, it and Inquisition both have item packs that you can buy as well, but I'm not going to go over those sets. Nowadays, almost all of the promotional items are just given away for free on PC, and now, as for consoles, I'm not 100% sure, but some are said to be available to claim in your console store. Hindsight. Originally, this belt was a reward for signing up for the Dragon Age 2 newsletter on the BioWare website, but the creation of this belt, both in lore and the meta, is what really makes this belt stand out. This belt and its backstory were created by Penny Arcade creators Mike Kraluik, I'm so sorry if that's wrong, and Jerry Hoskins, also known as Gabe and Tycho. They were given just free reign by BioWare to make anything, and they made a little motion comic to go along with the belt's codex entry. I've actually talked about the motion comic on this channel before, so I'm not going to really waffle on about it, but the TLDR is that the belt protects the wearer of what its previous owners died of. I'm, just as a side note, I'm kind of interested in what this newsletter was, as I couldn't find any record of it on a quick Google, so if you happen to have that buried in your email, forward me a copy. guildathon@gmail.com. Wink. Staff of Partholon. Similar to Hindsight, this was a reward for signing up for the newsletter. The staff itself is a pretty sought-after model, as it's used in a lot of the Dragon Age 2 marketing at the time, and even now a Mage Hawk will use it in Inquisition. The story of the staff is conflicting, however, as there is one story in-game and another that was posted on the official Dragon Age 2 website. The in-game item talks about how it belonged to Magister Partholon, who was brought to Kirkwall to end the Slave Rebellion. However, they never arrived and no one knows what happened to him or his staff. The website, however, talks about how Partholon was an ancestor of the Hawks, and they helped unite Ferelden under Calenhad. He eventually disappeared, fleeing from the Chantry's laws on magic, along with his hopes that mages would be free. Now, the question a lot of you might be asking is if this actually conflicts or not. And yes, while I would honestly love the story of a Magister running away to help Ferelden unite, the dates just don't add up. Calenhad was born in the Exalted Age, while all of Kirkwall's slave uprisings and rule under Tevinter happened in the Ancient Era, more than 500 years before Calenhad was even born. Hater's Razor. To attain this weird little two-handed sword, you had to complete the Dragon Age 2 demo. Now, you can actually still find playthroughs of the Dragon Age 2 demo on YouTube, but if you're wondering what the demo is, it was basically like an hour long and consisted of the opening to after you meet Varric. From there, it jumps you to meeting Isabella and her recruitment quest just before it ends. The story of the blade is a bit vague, but it's a dwarven blade that belonged to someone named Hater in Kirkwall that benefited from the slave trade and was filthy rich. Now, who is Hater? While they don't actually connect the dots for you, Hater is the man that confronts Isabella during her recruitment quest and is one of the last people you actually fight in the demo. Ring of Whispers. One of the weirder items, but this ring was obtained through buying at least $15 worth of items on the Epic Weapons store. Now, Epic Weapons, from what I can tell, as links to their website are kind of dead, used to sell life-size replica of swords. Now, they did briefly have a life-size Grey Warden and Darkspawn sword that you could buy for over $300. They did sell smaller items as well, like I found an article talk about Dragon Age coasters they sold, so you didn't actually have to buy the huge swords to get this. For the lore of the ring, it's a creepy story about how the ring was made by a mad Formari circle craftsman, and that those who wear the ring hear whispers they can't understand and eventually go mad. The last known owner was Arl Theo Renly, who ended his own life in South Foxlington. Now, where is Foxlington? It sounds like it would be in Ferelden, but I've never heard of it. Far Cliffs of Kirkwall. This book, which gives the player money when read, was given out after EA created this Call to Arms challenge. This thing was basically various challenges given to the community that once reached, an item would be given out to those with a BSN account. The first item was one of 2 given out after 1 million people both downloaded the demo and registered with an EA account. The description of the book read that it was written by a Ferelden refugee as she fled the Blight. It's a book of poems that describe her dreams of a new life in Kirkwall. Lothering's Lament. While this was given to anyone with a BioWare social network account, this was the second of the 2 items that were rewarded for having the Dragon Age 2 demo being downloaded over 1 million times. And when read, it gives you a boost to XP. Similar to the last one, it is a book about poems written by a Ferelden refugee that talks about all that she had to leave behind in Ferelden. Of Things Not Lost. Similar to the last 2, this was given to all BSN accounts after Dragon Age 2 Facebook page reached 1 million impressions, which apparently was done on March 4th, 2011, 4 days before the game was even released. When read, it unlocks runes for the player. Like the last 2, this one was written by, I guess, the same Ferelden refugee. In this one, she talks about her struggle to preserve her past and cling to the last few items she brought with her, which I guess were runes. Boots of the Frozen Wastes. This item was given out after you registered your physical game on EA's website. I'm assuming this is another version of buy the game new, you get an item idea. The boots are said to be similar to ones that are worn by barbarians in the Frozen Wastelands. They are apparently very often given to travelers, as the barbarians apparently are a very friendly bunch. Blood Dragon Armor. Funny enough, this is technically obtained in the same way that Dragon Age Origin armor was. Any player that had the armor in Origins also got it unlocked in Dragon Age 2. It also has the same lore, so really nothing to add here. Signature Edition. Lumping these items together, but these were just originally items included if you pre-ordered the game. Later, these items were also be able to bought in a DLC bundle and were included in the Ultimate Edition of Dragon Age 2. Adder of Antiva. It's a bow that is coven to Antivan pirates. It's brightly colored. Yay! Apostate's Courage. This staff has a story about Calith the Renegade, a mage that fled the Circle with a cabal of his most loyal acolytes. They fled to the mountains and lived there for an entire winter, just like chilling out before Templars marched up and captured them all, with Calith and his pals agreeing to be made tranquil to save them from death. Might of the Sten. It's a Canary sword. That's about it, really. Ring of Resilience. The ring has a small description that just says, as your pulse quickens, so does the intensity of the glow that it produces. Seeker's Bulwark. Not much to say here either, it's a Seeker shield that has been enchanted to protect the user from magic. Fade Shear and Lion of Orlais. Given to players who pre-ordered from any participating stores, so any of the retailers I'm about to list would also include these 2 items. Now, Fade Shear, the codex on this one is a bit hard on details, but the gist is that it's an old blade that has been in the hands of many who fight demons who cross the Veil, and that's about it. This is actually probably one of the coolest swords in the game for me personally, as it actually changes the stats when you level up, so I just kind of give it to Aveline and forget about her for the entire game. Lion of Orlais. The shield is said to have belonged to Lord Emile Devereux. I never took French in school. During height of the Summer War in Orlais, when dozens of nobles fought to win the throne, Devereux, I'm probably butchering that, was one of the strongest opponents, but was killed by a jealous lover in the night before he could become emperor. Amulet of Ashes. Given to players who pre-ordered from Play.com in Europe, Best Buy in North America, and Bro.sk, which I think is a Czech website? Maybe? The description of the amulet is interesting. It looks like a charred piece of wood with half-melted gold on it, but if hanged over an open flame, it reverts back to its former glory and looks new again. The Irons. Given to players who pre-ordered from the EA store, which apparently was only for Xbox and PC at the time. So this is an interesting belt for me because it's not actually made for battle, but instead made of Kirkwall black iron for miners' safety harnesses. The design dates back from when Tevinter ruled the city. Antivan Garrote. Given to players who ordered anything from the BioWare store, which the code only worked for Xbox and PC, apparently. One of the few entries I'd actually recommend reading because it's a sensible chuckle, but the codex associated with this belt questions why you keep seeing Antivan Crow gear on the market. Are they bad at their job, dying, and their stuff gets sold? Or are they in need of cash and selling their gear to get their jobs done? Either way, it's not a great look for the crows. Sir Isaac's Armor. For me, this is one of the weirder crossovers from Dragon Age, but this was given to players who bought Dead Space 2 before March 2012. The armor itself is like a fantasy version of what the main character plays, and the name of the armor references the main character, Isaac. There is technically a whole set to this: armor, gloves, boots, and a helmet. They all unlock a codex entry that talks about Sir Isaac of Clark, a favorite horror story among bards in Thedas. Air of Confidence, given to players for playing part of Dragon Age Legends, which I also have a video on as well, and the player just had to complete the first main arc of the game, which would have taken some time to complete. So we're actually about to hit a bunch of items that belong to someone named Evra. So who is Evra? In short, Evra is a fabled demon hunter that had a lot of cool gear. His story is really mainly told through item descriptions, and collecting his gear to defeat powerful demons is part of the main plot in Dragon Age Legends and Dragon Age Legends Dragon Age Legends Remix 01. They don't really say too much else on him, and he's never popped up anywhere else in the series that I could find. So with whoever is out of the way, this ring belonged to him and was given to him by the first enchanter of Markham. Evra was said to always wear it, although its exact power was unknown. However, in-game, it's pretty basic. Here's the stat. Dura's Blue Flame. Another item linked to Dragon Age Legends. This was given out for over 100,000 players in the game. This one does have a bit of an odd history, though. Despite it being linked to Legends, this amulet is actually a main plot point in the unfinished Dragon Age Journeys. You can watch my video on it for the full rundown, but in Journeys, this name was slightly different, in that it was Duras's, not Dura's. Now, its existence in Dragon Age 2, if we can assume that it's the same amulet, proves that the story of Journeys continued and the player character won the battle. So for those of you who were attached to that game, all 2 of you, I'm not trying to roast, it's just the truth. While the story was never finished, things did resolve in the end. Evra's Might. Probably the easiest item to collect from Dragon Age Legends. All you had to do was complete the castle building portion in the tutorial. The ring is said to be like this massive thing and made of solid gold, while Evra wore it during some random battle with something called the Blood Sisters of Venstel. Okay. Its main purpose was literally just to punch demons in the face, so it's actually more brass knuckles than a ring. Evra's Trophy Belt. Another Dragon Age Legends item, but this one was obtained after completing the main quest Vantage Point. The name is pretty much the whole thing here. It's a belt worn by Evra and covered in blade chips, teeth, fur, and armor, and which every little piece is a trophy from a battle or adventure of his. Ivo Family Crest. The last Dragon Age Legends item, this one was given after defeating Raspin. Now, I would love to give you an explanation on why the Dwarven noble house Ivo has its crest connected to Dragon Age Legends, but they don't appear at all. While there are dwarves in the game, it happens really late in the game, well beyond unlocking this crest. So, the dwarves don't even involve Ivo either, so... Now, House Ivo is a Dwarven house mentioned in the series, however, being seen the Dwarven noble opening and walking around Orzammar in Dragon Age Origins. Fan Reward Pack. Another odd collection, but the items Arleth and Focusing Crystal, Band of Stolen Shadows, and Hawk Family Crest were given out by then BioWare community manager Chris Priestley, I think it's Priestley, during the San Diego Comic-Con in late July 2011. Neither of these 3 objects actually have any information on them other than pictures that's seen in the DLC section of the menus. The only thing of note is that the Hawk family crest is actually the Amel family crest, implying that perhaps Malcolm Hawk adopted his wife's crest as his own, which, like, if I was a guy who married a woman with a family crest, I would totally do that too. Deep Green Pendant of the Morning Frost and High Lord's Belt. So while I said I wouldn't go over items associated with achievements, these 2 are odd because they actually had a time limit. You had to unlock at least 1 achievement in Mark of the Assassin for the Deep Green before November 2011, and for the belt and pendant, you had to get any achievement in any of the DLCs before November 2012. These items also don't have a description to them. Dragon Age Inquisition. Now, unlike the last 2 games, to this day, almost 10 years later, it's actually closer to 8, there are still some of these items that you cannot get. Only those on PC can experience some of these items through mods, and even then, some of the lesser items just have been mostly tossed away. Flames of the Inquisition set. Now, I'm lumping this all into one, even though it's a bunch of different items, including an armor, weapons, and even a horse. Now, all of this was content that was included in the Deluxe, Inquisitors, and Game of the Year editions. None of these items actually have an interesting description either, so we're just gonna move on. Deluxe Edition. Again, lumping these together because they were all obtained the same. But the Ball Unicorn, the Red Heart, and the Dragon Moth Throne, and then also like 2 chests from the multiplayer, but like, who plays that, were part of buying the Inquisitors and Game of the Year edition. The Bog Unicorn has a fun entry in a codex that talks about all the mounts in Inquisition, titled A Horsemaster's Notes on Mounts, written by Master Dennett. A Tranquil talked to Dennett on the horse, and it seems that in life the horse was an Orlesian charger, likely for a chevalier. It fell in battle from what looks to be wounds from a demon, and its master gave it a mercy killing, which that's what the sword is in its head for. Dennett suggests that a spirit of loyalty or freedom, or perhaps even a demon of those ideas twisted, is possessing it. Either way, the horse wishes to serve the Inquisitor. The Red Heart is less exciting despite being my favorite mount in the game, but is said to be a rare animal even among Dalish travelers. They are sure of foot and attuned to the rider, and they're pretty. I like it. Red Lyrium weapons. This pack of 3 weapons is now just given to players after getting Dagna, but originally they were part of a little minigame. It was called The Quest for the Red Lyrium Reapers, and I actually remember doing this when it was still available. Basically, you would watch the 3 intros for Bull, Vivian, and Varric, and this green mist would pop up. Click all the mists on the video, and bam, you collected one of the weapons. Blade of Tunna allied, Staff of Aiden allied, and Sword of Charis allied. Now, there's no explanation for the name behind these weapons, and the descriptions really only talk about how Dagna made it and how impressive that is. So add a guess on how the item looks, and as they do involve skulls and red lyrium can be grown from people, Tunna, or whatever the name is pronounced, Aiden and Charis might actually be the people they grew from. Who they are, I can't actually say, but are likely Templars. Light Torn Steed and Ring of Technical Logic. Both of these were only obtained through a Newegg promotion where you had to buy a specific Logitech gear. While the promotion is long since over, the website is somehow still up and you can actually look through the stuff you had to get to obtain the items. The mount and the next few mounts I'm about to talk about are actually unable to be obtained through any normal means as of today, but if you are on PC, you can download a mod that unlocks the mounts. Now, the mount is unlike anything else in the series, and the War Table mission to collect it is just as odd, and I'm just going to read it to you here. I have no context for this offer, save that it appeared at my window in the mouth of a bird that was not a bird. I can say it no more plain than that. A strange printed note followed. A boon, should you take delivery. Let it be known that not all in the North bear ill will. Not all in the North bear allegiance or shame. Not all in the North are bound by convention. Not all in the North stop at the shore. Send many, for the construction will bind only to you. Signed, We Who Are. Now, I have absolutely no idea what any of that means, to be honest, although I wonder if this is another instance of those across the sea. Maybe. Who knows? The ring is actually much less exciting. It only gives like a 2+ to dexterity. Avar Mixed Draft and Amulet of Martial Determination. I'm honestly a little confused on how this one was given out, as the wiki just says that it was obtained through Raptor rewards, and after some digging on that, I'm left with more questions than answers. From my understanding, Raptor was like a social media site for gamers owned by AMD. You got points for using the site or buying AMD products and collect in-game things with the points, this being one of them. Now, as a personal anecdote, I actually have this one. An eon ago, a little fresh-faced fan named Katie stumbled upon a post on Reddit by a guy who got his code from the DLC for buying a new AMD graphics card. He posted the code for free, and I was able to be the first one to nab it. I loaded up my game, took a photo of the horse and my character at the time I was playing. It was like a male elf, and I posted it as like a thank you, and then he promptly made fun of my graphic settings being low, because I was dual booting a Mac at the time. I kind of have mixed feelings about that, and this is just me bitching about that. So thanks for the free DLC, asshole. I say that with like mostly love, because I am glad I have it. Anyway, the horse looks cool, but nothing really to add other than that. The necklace also just adds 2 to Constitution. Frankly, I'd pretty much never think about using it. Primal Trained Logma and Premier Ring of Insight. This one was included when you bought a copy of any of the hardcover guidebooks from Prima. While you can actually still find copies with unused codes, and I have recently bought the Dragon's Inquisition guidebook, and it had an unused code in it, it actually expired all the way back in 2015, only like a few months after Trespasser was released, which I think is ridiculous. Anyway, also not much to say, and this mount is probably the worst of the bunch, as it only just has green feet, and the ring adds a +2 to cunning. Amulet of Master Studies and Ring of Master Studies. probably the rarest DLC. Per the wiki, this one only had about 2,000 codes available and were given to participants of certain Microsoft and Facebook trainings. I haven't really been able to find anything else about that, which is just kind of crazy that this is a thing. The amulet is probably the best of the bunch of like these weird necklaces that were given out and nobody has, because it gives the Inquisitor a whole ability point. The ring just gave a +2 to cunning, which isn't that exciting, but like a whole ability point. I kind of want that. And finally, Dragon Decor. Okay, so this one actually isn't a promotional item, but I still just want to include it in here as you can't collect this item in the single player. If you defeat the High Dragon in Inquisition's multiplayer, you unlock a unique Skyhold decor based on dragons. It's actually much harder to match a player nowadays, and it can be tricky to unlock, and some people don't even know that it exists. But it is real, and I have it, and it's still able to unlock today, so if this is something you want, go find a group. Good luck. And that, dear patrons, is all that I have on promotional items for the series. Now, as a side note, I do want to thank you all for sticking around while I took a little break. There's just been there's a lot going on in the background that maybe one day I'll talk about. But while I'm getting back into doing channel videos, it might be a while before I get more regular. You see, the Heroes of Dragon Age, the mobile game, is shutting down, and myself and a few others are working behind the scenes to archive what we can. There's actually kind of a glitch where if you're a new player, it just won't let you sign in anymore. Or if you re-download the game, you might not even be able to get into your account. It's basically gone now for most people. So myself and a few others are working hard behind the scenes to archive what we can. Thankfully, there's been so many resources that other people have put out, and we're just collecting everything so we can keep it safe. I'll probably do a whole video on this one day, just because I just want people to be able to look at what it was more closely and the cool concept art that was done and all that. But anyway, if I guess this is more of a shout out though. If you are someone who would know how to archive the game to get it to work without connecting to the soon to be deleted servers, please message me, because unfortunately we have no money in this. This is just all for free work, but I have no idea how we would even go about doing that. But anyway, do you still have lingering questions, proof that I'm wrong, comments about your own fan theory, feel free to tweet me at Gildathon on Twitter or send a PM to user Gildathon on Reddit. Duresh Sharal,